Kind of a daunting task, but we were able to get out all over the country, establish relationships, and convince some awfully good football players to come here. Something I charged them to do is not only recruit talented, good football players, but I wanted toughness, wanted character, I wanted team captains, I wanted those attributes to inject that into this program, and that's something we were able to do very successfully as well. I think it's a well-rounded class, very talented. We were able to hit almost every position. We filled our needs list, at least in terms of how we had targeted prior to recruiting and the number of needs we had at each of our positions. We filled those very well, and felt really good coming out of the recruiting that we made ourselves an awful lot better. So I'll open up for questions.
Coach, considering the timetable that you had from when you started here to where we are right now, was there anything more you could have asked for, or did you get exactly what you thought?
Great sense of accomplishment. I don't know if we would have had a year that we would have come up with a much better class than this. We targeted certain guys. In almost every case, we were able to get our top guy, that we targeted. Coaches did a heck of a job establishing relationships with high school coaches, with these players, with their families, and making this a comfortable place to be. The recruiting visits on campus went really well. We really made use of unofficial visits to our advantage, and trying to get guys on campus to convince them to come for an official visit. Our whole recruiting staff did a great job on recruiting visits, and we had a high rate of success there, especially at the end.
How much did you learn on the recruiting trail down here that'll help you going forward when you have more time?
You learn a lot every year. This is my first class, so for me it was always go out and get the best player. I didn't have to worry about how the puzzle fit together. This year I did, but good thing I had some awfully experienced assistant coaches with me, and we made most of the decisions as a staff. In terms of offense and defense, in terms of who we were going to sign and take commitments from, and then in terms of our final numbers, we did that as an entire staff. So live and learn. There's a few things I'd have done differently, but one thing I do know from my 22 years of coaching and recruiting is about relationships, and it's not easy when you get into it late December and you're trying to sway a guy away from another school who's built a relationship with that young man for a year, and you've got 2 weeks to establish the same type of relationship and make him feel comfortable. So I think our guys did a great job doing that.
How would you describe the relationship that you have with South Florida kids, especially in the Palm Beach area?
Very good. We had a great relationship. I think they all enjoyed their visits, and we had a great working relationships with the high school coaches and the players alike. So, yes.
Any surprises today?
No surprises. I will tell you that there are a couple guys on this that have committed today that were long shots for us. We got in late. They haven't even visited our campus, and we were able to, through personal visits and working with them on the phone, able to convince them to be coming out, which is, going to bed last night, there are a couple guys here that I wasn't quite sure about, in terms of whether or not they would come. They hadn't been on campus, and sometimes that leads to cold feet on a recruit's part. So I was very pleased that we got both of those guys. A number of guys were kind of 50-50 going into the morning between us and another school maybe they had committed to in the past or whatever. And, so we were able to get all 30 of the guys that we thought we were going to get.
Which of the guys haven't been on campus?
Chris Gilchrist has never been on campus, and Mike Edwards has never been on campus.
Been like you.
Huh?
Been like you. You had never been on campus before you did.
I had never been on campus before I took the job too. So, that's right.
Coach, several of the commits that are brought in are from the junior college ranks. Was that a strategy of yours coming in, or did it just happen that way?
It just happened that way. I think ultimately you you recruit junior colleges to fulfill specific needs, and you would never recruit a junior college guy who I don't think could contribute right away, you know. Typically in a year, your junior college numbers are less than in your first year, and it goes back to established relationships. You know, now, we'll be immediately working on next year's class and building those relationships, and that'll continue through spring recruiting and on into the fall. That's something that you didn't have a chance to do last year. So my charge to the coaches were not so much position specific or junior college versus high school specific, but let's go out and get the best football players we can find. Next year we'll worry about specific needs, and focusing more on Florida itself. With a talented recruiting base like Florida, you would expect that after the first year, probably the junior college need would not be as great.
Coach, there were a couple of guys who, at least according to recruiting services and lists and so forth, a couple of guys who were supposedly committed to the Owls who are not on this first list that I see here, Brown and Raheed. Is there anything you can tell us about what happened with those guys?
I'm not sure, but I don't think I'm allowed to comment on anyone who didn't sign.
Oh, okay.
So you could contact the athletes directly. But we did get the 30 that I intended to get.
Could you comment a little bit about German, a quarterback coming in from a JC, obviously an area in need. What are you looking for out of him?
Big arm. He's got a big, strong arm. Really spins the ball well. Ran a no-huddle offense, very in control out there. Very mature, good leader. Was a good leader for their team. Was kind of their guy that their team rallied around. Very successful. Won a lot of games there. Threw the ball upwards of 69 times in a game, and completed almost 50 of those. So just very experienced in a spread offense, managing the game, calling the plays at the line of scrimmage, making audible calls, all the things that we're going to ask our quarterbacks to do. He showed on tape that he was very capable of doing. Add that to the fact that he was a good leader and kind of their rallying point for the team, and it was a no-brainer for me. All these guys, we went back and not only talked to their junior college coaches and evaluated their junior college tape, but went back to their high school coaches, went back to their high school tape, and really researched these guys to know that the type of person we're getting.
So how do you consider the quarterback position right now? If you were stacking them up, are you looking at German as, at least at this early stage, as a potential starter?
Well, this isn't the NFL. That'll play itself out on the field. I won't name a starter now, but it's an open competition. May the best man win.
Coach, these guys, obviously the JUCO guys, you feel they can come right in and contribute, but the guys that are
Or
coming in.
compete for a position.
You feel that way all the way through this list, that all of these guys are gonna be able to come in and show some things?
Junior college wise?
All the way through, all the kids,
Well,
freshmen too.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recruit them if I didn't think they could come in and help us. Some of those kids will be redshirted, some won't. But, that's how I do it. I don't designate with a recruit or a new player who's gonna redshirt, who isn't. We don't even talk about that. We're gonna thrust them into the competition, see how that goes, see how they are coming out of camp. If they're a top 2, then they're probably not going to redshirt. Then you start involving them in special teams and whatnot. If they're not, now you got to start thinking redshirt, especially if you're in the weeks 3 and 4 when they still haven't played significant time. So that'll all play itself out. But ultimately, everyone on the team going into camp will have an even shot at earning the position. The redshirt, decisions will play out after that.
You gonna have some of these JUCO kids here for spring, or who on this list is gonna be here?
Some of those guys are already here. Let me see. Mustafa Johnson is already here. Stern Bile is already here. Jeremy McKnight is already here. Colton Kane was obviously a commitment to Coach Schnellenberger. He was a gray shirt that we honored. He came at mid-year. And Grant Flessner, quarterback from Venice High School, was a mid-year guy, so he's currently on campus as well.
And Ragu.
And Jonathan Ragu actually transferred from the University of Minnesota he was on campus all fall, and he joined the football program this January, so he is on campus as well.
Is there anyone on this list who maybe was overlooked by a lot of schools in the process, who particularly intrigued you by their vast potential? Anyone especially fit that category?
Well, for me, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. And I think the two that immediately come to mind when you say that are Dylan DeBoer and Arthur Krause. I think a lot of times as a college football coach, you can get trapped into wanting to recruit linemen who are the finished product, 300, 310-pound guys. And what you lose there is athleticism. And I think what we were able to get with Dylan and Arthur was great length, but guys who were probably 2 years away from stepping into a starting position on the field. But when they do, and they put that weight on the right way, with their speed and their athleticism and their length, they're going to be tremendous offensive linemen. I'm very excited about those two and the future they have at FAU.
Coach, what has been the biggest difference in recruiting as a coordinator versus recruiting as a head coach?
None. Honestly, like I said, just having to fit the puzzle together. I never had to worry about that before. But in terms of recruiting itself, again, it's about getting out and hitting the pavement and getting in front of the high school guys and sitting with the parents in their living room and explaining to them why FAU is a better choice for their kid or their boy than a number of other schools are. And that's what it is. It's about relationships, and that's what was the most difficult this year, is trying to get a handle on A, who we were targeting, and B, trying to get open the door and develop those relationships in a very short amount of time.
Coach, you mentioned the late momentum the class got a little bit. Why do you think that is? That you guys were able to pick up some momentum there at the end?
Well, again, I think it goes back to, I don't want to keep harping on the same topic, but it goes back to relationship. And the guys we visited early were guys, in some cases we knew 3 or 4 days before they made their visit. They didn't know who we were. They're kind of getting a feel for who we were. Guys we were visiting late were guys that we've been talking to for 3 or 4 weeks and talking to on the phone. They've been calling us. We've been Facebooking them, everything else. So in the end, those guys, as they came in late, I think were much more familiar with who we were as coaches and what this program was going to look like. Plus, I think we got better. We got better with our visits. We had to iron out some wrinkles early on in the process, and we kept evaluating each recruiting weekend and looking at ways we could do things better. And I think we got better, week to week to week, until we kind of hit the peak there at the end.
Coach, I know you can't give specifics, but you're over 25 with this list. Are there some that aren't academically qualified right now? And if so, how many?
Well, none of the seniors are academically qualified yet. But if you project out, I think that they can all make it. Remember, we did not have a full recruiting class last year. One of these kids is a transfer, and we were able to count some back to last year's class. So that's why the excessive numbers look the way they do.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.